started. It's 1 o'clock. We want to honor your time. I don't know how many of you, this is probably your second, third, fourth, or fifth webinar today or Zoom meeting today, and your 100th if you've lost count over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Thank you guys for being with us, from Meador Staffing Services, from our founder and owner, Ben Meador, from all of the staff, Melinda Torreson, the president of Meador Staffing. We want to say thank you for continuing to serve your people, your families, your community well in this time. I say this a lot with leadership is during crisis, we see what people are made of. And we see the great leadership, and we also see where there's lacks and a void of leadership. And you guys that are on this call have really demonstrated amazing leadership. In fact, two of the speakers we'll introduce to you in just a minute are great leaders in our district for Pasadena, and amazing people. So you guys, thank you from Meador Staffing. This is a different kind of webinar that we're doing, right? Typically to you, our clients and our customers and friends of the company, we've been doing trainings that are pertinent to your leadership, staying at home, working from home, engaging your employees. But on Friday, when we heard from our governor, I was sitting in our office with one of our office managers. We were watching the TV. We're working remotely here at Meador, so there's only a few people there. But as he was going through all the things he's doing to open up America again, or open up Texas again, the minute he said, and the schools will remain closed throughout the 2019-2020 time frame, and you'll continue to homeschool and work remotely with education, I could hear our office manager just a deep sigh, and just an overwhelming sense of, oh no, what does that mean? What does that look like? What do I do? And so we thought we wanted to provide you guys, through our connections and our relationships, an opportunity to hear from some of those teachers and administrators and leaders that might be able to bring a perspective to the table. There's a couple things I want to share as we introduce everybody. First of all, I understand and we recognize there's a lot of emotions, a lot of challenges, a lot of fears going on in the families and homes. A lot of grieving right now, a lot of loss or perceived loss. Maybe it's not as great as it is. Maybe we can learn that today, but there is definitely a lot of loss, and we want to acknowledge that. The other thing we want to let you know right from the beginning is we have got people representing at least 7 different school districts on here. Our speakers today are amazing leaders in Pasadena, but we're not going to talk about the decisions just in Pasadena, because we've got kids represented districts all over the greater Houston area. And the other thing is there's no one size fits all. Each of you are unique in your home situations and what's happening. And so they're going to share principles and thoughts and ideas with you guys, and perspectives that you're going to then have to take and figure out how does this apply to us in our home and our specific situation. So it's going to be hard to speak to a district. We're going to try to keep all of our conversation to universal truths that we're all facing in the process. But we have given you a resource, and it's up in the chat. Download it. It has the connections for all the school districts, all of the people you need to be talking to. There's other resources there for you guys to engage as well. And so we've given you a great resource. Please download that. That's in the chat. If you have any questions while we're going through this, type them in the chat. Valerie Smith is working on the chat. She's going to look at those questions so we don't lose any, and if we have time, we're going to cover them. And we're going to talk about several different things today as we go through this time together. But we're glad that you're here. We want to continue to add value to you guys and your families. I'm going to let our president welcome you and then introduce our speakers, and we're going to let them share an introduction, and then we're going to ask them a few questions, and then if we have time, we'll get to the questions that you guys have. So Melinda, would you introduce our guests and welcome everybody?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I believe I know most individuals. I can see your names and some of your faces on the screen. For those of you that I've not had the pleasure of meeting personally, my name is Melinda Torreson. I'm the president here at Meador Staffing Services. I've been here for 30 plus years, and we love what we do here at Meador Staffing. And of course, first and foremost, one of our core values is we love and care for people in the community. And so this is really not only is our lane helping people find jobs and working with so many clients throughout not just the region and the state of Texas, but really throughout the nation. what we thrive on, which this is what we're really good at right now, is bringing the community together. So similar to what our chamber organizations do, we are very similar, is we like to be the hub. We like to bring in people that we have just solid and strong relationships with. And so it's really my pleasure this afternoon to be able to introduce you to Jeremy Richardson and Diane Phelan. So I want to share just a little bit about each one of them. And so I'm actually going to start with ladies first. So we're going to start with you, Diane. So you can see her smiling face up there in the left-hand corner. But I've been able to get to know Diane a little better. She's actually, I'll brag about her, she's actually participating in the Pasadena Chamber of Commerce's 2020 Impact Leadership class this year. And so she has just been just a breath of fresh air, and just, you're truly amazing. So, but a little bit about Diane is she is a lifelong resident of Pasadena, earning her master's in education, of course, from HBU, Houston Baptist University, and her BS in interdisciplinary studies at the University of Houston. Her dream of returning to Pasadena to teach was actually realized when she joined the staff at Garfield Elementary. And of course, being the person that you are and the leader you are, Diane, you did receive the award for First Year Teacher of the Year in 1985. She has served in education for 26 years. She's taught at elementary schools. She's actually, she's one of those principals that had the probably great opportunity or privilege to actually start a new school and be its first principal. And last but not least, she is just a proud principal of San Jacinto Intermediate, and always takes an opportunity to do a shout out for this is the best school in Pasadena ISD. So you can tell she's an amazing lady, teacher, and of course, principal. She is a mom and a wife. And she is proud to be on the Aggie Moms board, as well as she's a Sunday school teacher. So you name it, this woman does it and brings it. So, and then it's my pleasure to also introduce to you, I see that beard, Jeremy. Wow. So that's what happens when you don't get a haircut or anything like that going on during COVID-19. But y'all can see his smiling face. This is Jeremy Richardson, and he's actually the principal over at Pasadena Memorial High School. He along with Diane, he actually graduated from Dobie High School. So another Pasadena born and raised principal that we have here. So he's a young thing. He graduated in 1995. He met his high school sweetheart, which his wife Erin is over the top amazing. She is your better half for sure, and I know you would say that. And when Jeremy graduated from high school, he actually joined the Army and lived in Kentucky and Germany. He attended the University of Houston after that, got married to Erin at Lake Tahoe in 2001, graduated from U of H in 2002. He actually began working at Dobie as a teacher and a coach after his graduation. He coached football and soccer over there at Dobie. And then I guess you got smart too. Then you went to Texas A&M to go get your Master's of Education. Saw you Aggies on there. Give a shout out and a whoop in your in the chat. So, and what I love about Jeremy, and the same with Diane, is they love their family. I know Jeremy's claim to fame is he considers his family to be his greatest achievement, and through his leadership, he hopes to inspire not only his family, his children, but the students, and that is really what their mission is. So here today, you don't only have principals and educators, but you have two individuals who are living the same life that you're living, who are hunkered down, homeschooling, and doing this with their families. So they're willing to share their own personal experiences here with you today. So I guess where we want to start this morning, like Rick said, please feel free to share your questions in the chat room, and we will try and do our best to answer each and every question. We know that so many of the questions are going to be similar. So Diane, we're gonna start with you. If you could go ahead and just share, what do you believe are maybe the three greatest challenges that you're seeing right now, or what would be the first the first thought that you would want to share to all of these parents who are here in front of you?
And Diane's going to represent talking about elementary schools and junior highs, and then Jeremy's going to specifically talk about senior high or high schools, because there's definitely uniqueness, and we've got parents on here with little ones to junior hires to graduating seniors, and so they're going to speak to that and kind of give you an overview to start, and then we'll get into some more specifics. Diane, jump in, unmute yourself, and have at it, and y'all ask questions as we go along in the chat.
All right. Hey guys, first of all, I would just like to say on behalf of all the educators, administrators, school boards, thank you parents for what you are doing. We certainly couldn't continue the educational process without all the things that you have put into this. And so we appreciate you. We appreciate your value that you have and your willingness to step up and do something that no one's ever done before. So we certainly appreciate that. When I think about three really important things that we want to remember for all ages, first and foremost is it's kind of like being on an airplane. Like, you can't help your child if you don't help yourself first. So you got to put that oxygen mask on you first. And so making sure that overall you are taking care of yourself, that you are in a place that you know, like if you're feeling chaotic, then what's going to be given to the kids is going to be chaotic, and they're going to be chaotic, and it's just going to be one big cycle. So I think just realizing when you feel triggered and stepping away and trying to just work on taking care of yourself first. And I tell teachers that all the time, making sure as a teacher, we take care of ourselves first so we can take care of the kids. And so as parents, we want to do those same things. The second thing I think that's super important is to know your kids' needs. So you're seeing your kids in a different light for sure. And you may have one kid that is flying through everything that they have been given work-wise, and you can just give them their packet or put them on the computer or whatever it is, and they can do it. And you may have another kid that needs you right there beside them. And so you have to know your kids. As teachers, we have, we tell teachers all the time, like, there's kids in your classroom you've got to have sitting right next to you as the teacher. Well, now as the parent, when they're working, you just have to know your kids' strengths and weaknesses. My very best friend has a 7th grader and a 5th grader, and the 5th grader, she lets sleep whenever he wants to. He can get up and start working whenever he wants to. But her 7th grader is special needs and ADHD and is medicated. And she's like, his strength to work is in the morning. So she wakes him up and makes sure he's on a schedule. And that's what works for him. So you have to know your own individual kid. I have 2 college kids. One of them, same thing. She could sleep all day and work all night, and she's going to get it done. The other one will play video games and try to sleep. So we had to give her a specific schedule, and that's a 20-year-old. So you just have to know what's going to work best for your kids, their strengths, and then what's your strength. So for me, for example, I get up super early in the morning before everybody else in my house so that I can get my stuff done, so that when they need help, I can give them help, or I can let them use the computer or whatever. So just knowing what your strengths are and what your kids' strengths are and what's going to work best for them. Kids aren't going to sit, and let's talk about elementary kids. They're not going to sit still for 3 hours and work straight. So understanding that, like, as an adult, as a almost 50-year-old adult, I can say I'm good for about an hour, and then I have to get up and move around, whether I'm at work or whether I'm at home. And so expecting a 6-year-old to sit there and just work page after page after page after page is a big expectation. So again, just knowing your kids and understanding that your attention span is like this big, and it's even less than that because this is such a weird environment right now, and just giving yourself a little grace, and do the best you can. Stay in contact with the school. If you're not hearing anything and you have questions, email, call the school. communicate with the school. We, as educators, want to hear from you. And I think at first we were bombarding everybody with calls and emails and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And if your kid had more than one teacher, you were getting 85 calls from 85 teachers. And if you had 3 kids, times 3, you know, all these things. And so now we're kind of settling in. And so I feel like maybe we have backed off some. And so you may not hear as much. If your child doesn't understand something at any level and they have questions, reach out to the school. You can't get the teacher. As the principal, as an administrator, we want to know, maybe there's maybe we have a wrong number, maybe we don't have a good email. So just reach out, because our job is to educate your child, and that's what we want to do, is make that happen. That's not really your job, so let us help you. Help us help you, you know. And so those are the big things that we just want you to know. Like, it is a team effort right now, and certainly, we're here to be of service to all of the parents. There is not a school in the world that wants to see any child fail, and we're going to do everything we can, and I think that's everywhere across the world. Every teacher wants our kids to be successful, and so they're going to do what they need to do to help your child be successful.
Dan, let me ask you a quick question before Jeremy comes in. In regards to the education and the work, right, the assignments and things that are coming, as a parent, we receive these and we're like, oh my goodness, right? All of these assignments, they have to do everything, dot every I and cross every T and finish everything. What would you say to the parents who are not used to this and they're getting all these assignments and they're getting communication? What's most important to tell the parent when they're trying to facilitate the education? I love what you said. They're not teaching, they're not educating, they're facilitating a process. So what would you say to the parents who are going, oh my gosh, all of this work, how do I make sure they get everything done? What's the most important thing that the parents need to know?
So I think it's important to remember, first of all, parents, you're not getting a grade on your parenting skills based on this horrible, however many weeks we've been in school. You're not getting a grade. The thing is, your kids, when they are at school, they don't get 100% everything right all the time. And as a parent, we don't want to see our kid fail, or we don't want to see them struggle. But when they're at school and they get an 85 on a really hard test or a really hard skill, that may be a great grade for that child. So understand, it doesn't have to be, you know, as parents, we want them to get 100 all the time. They don't have to get 100 all the time. We want to make sure they understand the concept, and sometimes failing or that struggle, that educational struggle, is what helps them to learn. And so I think kind of let go of this perfect picture, my kid has to get them all right or has to do every worksheet in this order. Take a big deep breath and realize we're going to get through this. Sometimes even teachers have to go, man, this assignment, it stinks, like horrible assignment, and we have to back off of it. So I don't know if that answered your question, Rick. I hope it does. I think that's probably our biggest thing we have to think about.
Yeah, I think Diane, as you have said, you know, really helping us as parents understand what the most important thing is. And it's not necessarily teaching, it's the opportunity to interact with our kids, right? It's that opportunity to engage them, that they are engaging the process, not that they're doing everything all the time perfectly, right? And so giving, as a parent, I would say, I think you said this, or Jeremy and I said this, giving grace to ourselves as parents. Take a breath, it's okay, give yourself some grace in the process, because your kids feel what you feel, right? And so I know that that is a big part of it. Diane, thank you, and we'll come back to you in a minute. So Jeremy's going to offer a perspective from the high schools. There's some different things happening in a high school situation. So in junior high and elementary school, grades are important, but they don't count and function the same way. So there's more flexibility of just engaging the learning process, how to solve problems, how to engage. That's really important at the elementary and junior high level. The high school level does have some measurables they've got to figure out how to do and handle. And for those of you who have kids in high school, there's a lot of other dynamics. So Jeremy, why don't you share just, you know, kind of what's on your heart, how to help the parents breathe a little bit better, and then how to understand some of the things that they're receiving in the work of their kids.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Rick and Melinda. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to everyone today. Some of the things that I have been trying to focus on during these times, because we have a lot of information coming at us and we have a lot of decisions that need to be made on a regular basis, on a daily basis, from hour to hour even, is that our students, they crave to maintain the connection with us as their teachers, as their principal. And so a big part of what we need to be doing right now is just maintaining those connections with our students. And to me, if we maintain those connections, I think everything else is going to fall into place when it comes to the grades and the assignments and the learning part of things. So I think one of the challenges has been, at least for a bigger campus like a high school, is to try to find ways that we can maintain the connections that our teachers have with their students. And for myself as well, I've had to branch out and try some new things and do some new things as the principal in terms of maintaining those connections with our school community. Along those lines, also communication. During these times, I feel like I answer a lot of the same questions over and over again, and that's just because, like I mentioned before, we have a lot of different pieces of information coming at us, and just like Diane mentioned, we're starting to settle into a lot of these new systems that we have in place, but you know, we're not all able to get in the same room at the same time like we are right now with this Zoom meeting, to be able to say, hey, this is what we're doing for this class or this particular situation, or this is being rescheduled. So communication is also something that we really have to focus on during these crisis situations, and then just implement new systems into place. And so we have made a huge shift. We've made a huge pivot as an educational entity to the virtual learning world. And along with that comes a lot of lessons for not only the students, but for the teachers and the administrators as well. So we are learning how to do this new way of school right along with everyone else. So those are three of the things that we've tried to focus on. But like Rick said, also, we have at the high school level some things like credits and graduation and STAR EOCs that we are really having to focus on in a little bit different way than perhaps the intermediates and the elementary schools are. And so for us, you know, we have certain credit requirements that the state has for us to be able to graduate a student. And right now, obviously, for our seniors who are trying to finish out their 4 years of high school, that is a priority for us. But then also, we don't want any of our other students to get behind because they have not been able to demonstrate mastery on the courses that they're taking right now. So we're doing our very best to make sure that each student at least demonstrates the foundational proficiency in each of their classes that they would need to be able to build on that and then move on to the next grade level. Part of that is getting them ready for EOC courses and the EOC exams that they'll have to take for Algebra 1, for Biology, for English 1, for English 2, and for U.S. History. So at the high school level, there are 5 tests that they have to pass in order to be ready to be graduated. So what the state has done this year is any student that is enrolled in one of those classes that I just mentioned, as long as they get credit for that course this school year, then they will have that EOC requirement waived. So for example, a freshman student that's taking English 1, Biology, and Algebra 1, if they pass all 3 of those classes this year and receive credit for those classes, then their STAR EOC requirements will be waived for those courses.
So I don't know if anyone has any questions about that and the implication of that, but basically what I'm hearing you say, Jeremy, is anything that's associated with the STAR testing or the testing, if they pass the class for that year, they will not be required to then have to take that test in that subject field area. So it's important, the emphasis of what you're saying then as a parent helping their child, what is the practical thing you're saying to me as a parent as I'm talking to my kids to help them because their mindset is all about the STAR testing and certain grade points, and I got to get this for a scholarship, or I need this for, you know, the kids have been ingrained, as we know, with having to do certain things to get certain, right? So what can you tell the parents in terms of how are they going to coach their kids and help them understand the impact of this for them and how to help them refocus?
Well, I think one of the benefits of online learning is that we do have the ability to go back and address certain standards that a student may not have necessarily mastered to the degree that we wanted them to. So one of the things that we can do in this new virtual realm is take a student in algebra, for example, and they have not necessarily mastered linear equations the first time that they went through it. So their teacher has the ability now to reassign some things to that student, perhaps hopefully have a reteach for that student after they went through the first time and were not able to demonstrate mastery, and then evaluate that student once again once they have developed the skills necessary to show proficiency for that particular learning standard. So really and truly, we have tools within these virtual systems that we're using that I feel like are going to be able to benefit the students in the long run, because we now have the ability to go back and address things perhaps that they didn't necessarily get when we first started this. So the opportunity is there for them to go back and make corrections to certain things that they may not have done so well on when they first learned them.
And Jeremy, what about students like in 8th grade that are taking freshman algebra? Some of the younger kids that are engaged in some of this, does this apply to those? And maybe Dan, you'll know, because I know that there's advanced classes and coursework, and kids that at one grade level are actually taking classes that qualify for another grade level. Is that play into this at all, or?
Absolutely, because the 8th graders that take Algebra 1 are also taking that corresponding STAR exam. So if they are able to earn credit for Algebra 1, then they will not have to take the Algebra 1 STAR EOC for a graduation requirement.
Okay. Yeah, so as a parent, I think what you're telling me, if I'm working with my kids, is I'm trying to communicate to them their stress level, because the kids are going through a lot of anxiety and stress as well. Understanding this is to help our kids breathe and say, listen, the goal right now isn't necessarily the 95 or the 98. The goal is for this semester and for your year, what does it look like to make sure that we pass this class, right, at the highest level possible? So we still encourage them to achieve at the highest level, but really help them refocus on a priority, especially the kids that are borderline, that are struggling. The goal isn't your GPA of an 85, 95, or 99 or whatever. The goal is let's get you through the class, bring it up to a place of passing in this field, so that we don't have to worry about that. You'll automatically promote to, right? If I'm a parent, that's what I want my kids to kind of breathe and understand if they're struggling with that a little bit. Would that be fair?
Absolutely. I think that's completely fair. And, you know, we also want our students to understand, like Diane was mentioning, that this is not a perfect system. We understand that. This is not the ideal educational setting. None of us got into education to do school virtually. You know, we want that human interaction, and there's no replacement for a teacher in their classroom with their students, and that kind of give and take, and that teaching, that is why we do what we do. And so we have to understand that, and there's only really, you know, so far these virtual systems can go without that human interaction, that face-to-face contact, and that engagement that is such a vital part of learning. And so we have to take that into consideration too. And those are the conversations that we're having with our teachers. I know that I can't think of an administrator that's not having those conversations with their teacher, no matter what school district that you're with. And so we understand that this is not regular school. This is crisis mode in a lot of ways. And so we're doing the best job that we can to continue the educational process for my children at home. I have a daughter that attends Pasadena Memorial High School, so I'm hearing it at home if she's not liking something that she's doing with her virtual classes. But, you know, we understand too that each family situation is unique during these times. Everyone's facing different kind of issues, whether they be health issues or economic issues or social emotional issues. And so, like I mentioned when we were talking a couple days ago, Rick, we want to demonstrate the kind of grace that is necessary to let everyone know that, hey, this is about you as the student. This is about our relationship and us moving forward together, because this is not the end of our story. You know, this is a bump in the road. This is a hiccup, but we're going to move on from this, and we're going to be stronger, and we're going to learn some things from this that we never knew we were going to have to learn when this first began.
Yeah.
So true.
Life is some of the best teachers, right? And we are experiencing historic life right now. And if we look at it that way, there's great opportunities to learn things beyond this. Let's keep going in this, but let's shift just a little bit. Let's talk, Diane, to you guys both about communication. So one of the biggest things, I think the greatest thing we can do is communicate, and you both mentioned it already, but communication can be really difficult. We've got parents who come from a work mindset of how we do things and how you communicate and what they expect from a work environment. But we're in a fluid environment with teachers and administrators and students, and some parents have multiple kids. One of the questions that was asked, and then we can kind of go into how would you advise, and you've already said it, but the approach to communicating and asking questions. One of the questions that Kelly asked was, what's the best way to get a list of teachers with their contact information?
Yeah.
Okay, and Jeremy was just typing some answers in there. But that's for you, but in general, how do parents, what's the best way for them to go about getting the necessary information to contact their teachers or their pod of teachers, or so junior highs, they may have 6 teachers. And me as a parent, I'm going, my 6th grader, 7th grader has 6 different teachers. Do I have to call every teacher? What would you say to them about how to get the information, and then how to go about reaching out to that? And what are the teachers thinking about this? What's their attitude about the parents? Help us as parents understand that. Diane, if you want to kind of take the perspective of the younger kids, then Jeremy hit us again with the high schoolers. But talk to us about communicating.
The teachers, again, just want to serve your child and serve you. And as much as you're grieving for your children not being at school, the teachers are grieving for your children not being at school as well. And so certainly you can email them. If you have an email, a lot of schools have their website, and you can go to the teacher's name and click on the teacher. That doesn't work. Certainly you can call the school. The schools are answering the phones. They've set certain hours. You could check with their school district website. That's also another way to reach any administrator. So certainly you could reach out that way. It's all of those things. If you have children that have lots of different teachers and there's just one class you're concerned about, just reach out to that one. Just as much as you may or may not want to call and talk to every teacher, if you don't feel like your child's having a problem in all the classes, then don't worry about it. But if they're really struggling in their math class, then call that math teacher and say, hey, my kid is really struggling with this assignment, or the fact that you gave us a whole packet of 25 things to do and we only have 2 days to do it in. Communicate that. The teachers want to know, because like Jeremy said, this is new for us. We're creating things as we go along. So we may think, oh, this is good assignment, and it may be poo. And so we need to know, we need to have the feedback. Sorry, at least I didn't cut is what I'm thinking. So it may just be bad. And so, or it may not work for your child. And again, just like your child, your teacher also has had your child for 3/4 of the year, and they're going to know that as well. Oh my gosh, I know that's going to be hard for Rick. Let me see if I can find something else for him to try, or let me talk to him and what worked through this. So teachers certainly do want to help.
So Diane, I know, and I actually taught school for about 8 years, and I know that teachers modify assignments. So parents, I want you to hear, if kids are struggling, the teacher's job is to modify an assignment to the strengths and needs of that child. As parents, we wouldn't know that. So we just think what's on the paper is what you do. If your child is struggling and says, hey, at school, my teacher lets me do this, or I can do it this way, and you didn't know that, talk to the teachers. I know they're waiting to talk to you. There's something, parents, I will tell you about hearing the voice of your teacher, and just ask the teacher, is it okay if I don't do the 10 problems and I do 3 as long as we're doing the 3? ask them those questions, because I know as when I was teaching, I would be fine with that. Just engage, right, and modify as you need to. So I think that kind of communication is sometimes just call them to hear their voice and ask them, I'm worried my child isn't going to do well, that they're suffering with me being here. Those are great questions of emotion that I think you guys would both say are fair to ask. Just pick up the phone and call the teacher. That's why they're there, and they'll help give you some grace on yourself as well. Jeremy, what else might you say about communication? I'm going to hit another question as we go, but what else do you see just about how you want to encourage parents to communicate and the best ways to do that if they've got questions?
I would just say that, if a parent ever feels like their student is falling behind, or they're struggling, or they're having just issues with them and what their daily schedule is, not only do our teachers want to help out with those kind of challenges, but school administrators, counselors, we have everyone right now employed in this process, from, my own executive secretary who is helping man the phones, to our attendance office clerks who are helping to interpret for Spanish-speaking parents. Everyone is engaged in this, and our one focus right now is our students and trying to ensure that they have everything that they need to be successful. Now, that being said, though, sometimes we're not aware of every single issue that's going on, as much as we would like to be able to know when each and every student is struggling. So, there are certain apps out there that you can download. Our district, and I know that a lot of other districts in the area use Skyward. There's a Skyward app that you can use as a parent to monitor your child's grades, assignments. If their grade falls below a certain average, you can get notification of that. But then also, I believe Diane mentioned this already, but I want to know if I can help in any kind of way, because that's what we're here for. We have a service-oriented mentality, or at least that's the expectation. We're here to serve our community. We're here to serve our students, and we want to partner with our parents in terms of ensuring the best possible education for each and every one of our students. And so, if I have to get involved and facilitate finding resources for a parent or for a student, that's what I'm here for. So I don't ever want a parent to be hesitant to reach out to anyone. And it's not a gotcha thing for the teacher. It's not a gotcha thing for the assistant principal or the counselor or anybody like that. It's all about us trying to ensure that every child has what they need to be able to learn. And so that's what I would just encourage people to reach out if they ever feel like they have a question about anything, and we'll do the very best that we can to try to get you the assistance that you need.
So part of what I heard you say, Jeremy, so again, as parents, helping to facilitate our kids' education, is call your teachers first. Reach out to them, talk to them, tell them how you're feeling, tell them where you're struggling, tell them your fears, let them help you. And if for some reason you have a teacher that's disengaged, or I know we had one question as we were fielding some questions about a teacher who actually, the main teacher is on maternity leave, and so there was a sub, and so there wasn't a really good teacher connect there. Don't hesitate to call the principal. You're not tattling. It's the right thing to do, because the principal doesn't know everything that's happening everywhere, but they want to be able to facilitate. So you guys as parents, it's okay. If you can't get a hold of a teacher or aren't getting the response, it's okay to go to the principal and say, I need some help knowing how to best do this, is what I hear you both saying, right? You also said something, Jeremy, and Diane, I'm curious. So the counselors and advisors are all still fully working, right?
Oh, yes. And a lot of them are reaching out to kids that they had normally seen or talked to, or felt like maybe struggled when they were at school. And so for sure they're reaching out there, but then they're also available. And this is, I've seen this all over the place, really all over the country. You see counselors setting up even their own Zoom meetings. Hey, are you struggling with time management? Right. Come in on this Zoom meeting or whatnot. So they are certainly accessible to your children. They're providing services. A lot of them are doing one-on-one counseling. So all of those things that they could get at school, they can still get through this new virtual world.
So that's, I want the parents to hear that. I didn't even think about that till Jeremy, you said that. Parents, the advisors and the counselors are there. If your kid has been seeing one or talking to one or they have a let them call them, right? The kids can call their advisors or their counselors and talk to them if they needed to, in that same environment as if they were on campus and wanted to go see their counselor or advisor. Is that available for the students to pick up the phone and say, I want to talk to my counselor or my advisor? Can they do that directly?
Absolutely, and I would encourage it. You know, we're all struggling as adults with this new normal that we are living through here, and so you can imagine that with, at least in our world as a high school, the teenagers and all of the different social and emotional changes and development that they're going through as high school students, and especially for our seniors right now, with a lot of their dreams being changed, and you know, a lot of the uncertainty that has, you know, that they're experiencing right now. I would encourage that if you do see signs of your student struggling with the emotional side of these things, you know, the academics, we can take care of that. We can handle that. We can fix that. If they get behind a little bit, we can do things to get them caught up to speed. But with the social emotional side of things, you know, I think that is of the utmost importance during this time. And so if you see your child struggling, like Diane said, our counselors that is what they do, and that is their passion. That's their purpose, and that's their why, to help children work through some of these social emotional challenges that they experience, and especially during a crisis time like this, when there's so much uncertainty, there is so much fear and anxiety going around. This is the right time for you to engage us. And if you can't get in touch with them, I can guarantee if you email the principal of your school and let them know that your child is having some issues and they're struggling, they're going to get you the help that you need.
Awesome.
Good advice.
So there's some questions as well that pertain to this. I'm going to hit these really quickly. One that pertains to what you were just saying, Jeremy, and I'm going to get these last three questions here. Will there be summer school for the struggling kids? We talked about this ahead of time. So in other words, I know like with high school, Pasadena has picked a graduation date in July. They also are keeping, for most of the districts, their regular end of school date is right now remaining the same. But that's not saying that when we hit that drop dead point, if kids are struggling, it's, oh, well, too bad, right? What's the attitude and the mindset of how people are looking at this process for kids who are struggling through this, and the last day of school is X date? Help them understand what's going to be, from you guys, what's going to be offered for these kids. And the second one kind of goes with that. Will the next year's courses, will they recap and catch the material up that was lost either through summer or next year? Are they going to go back and help them catch that up? So how do you help kids who are still struggling, but it's the end of school, and next year, will they look back on this? What's the thoughts about those two things?
Every district for sure is coming up with a summer school plan. It certainly won't look like traditional summer school. I know in our district, we've been very clear about we're not going to just finish and let these kids fail or leave them hanging out there. So absolutely, there is going to be a very clear plan. I believe that's the expectation from our commissioner. He's committed to educating our kids in the very best way that we can. And so I would expect that would be certainly available in every district. The other thing is, I mean, I think when we're coming back, one of the other questions is, do we think there's going to be a gap? We don't know yet. Maybe we rocked it. Maybe you parents did such an excellent job at home and we had such a wonderful curriculum that our kids are better off than they were before we left. Maybe, maybe not. So we're still kind of working through that. Certainly, I think our expectation is that we're going to have to fill in some gaps, and it may be different gaps than we've had in the past. But the reality is, when we start in August every year, there are some kids that come with gaps, and so teachers know that. We expect it. Same thing with the adults. There's some things that as a principal, I have to go back and review with my staff every August because sometimes over the summer we forget it. So We are going to prepare for those gaps. Your kids, I can promise you, are going to be taken care of on our end and with that education piece for sure. And our curriculum people here in Pasadena, and I'm sure all over the country, are trying to figure out, okay, we know these are normally where our gaps are. What gaps can we anticipate that we may have based on the time that we were out of school? So I'm sure every district is planning for that.
And there's another question along those same lines, Jeremy, for you guys. It says, do you expect to see the AP GT kids being on target or falling behind as they get ready to go into next year's set of courses? How do you, and it's more specific, I don't want to spend a lot of time there, but I do want to at least give me a quick kind of answer on that. And then in our last few minutes, we want to focus on a couple practical things.
Well, for the AP students, the AP tests are still taking place. I know that I have a daughter in AP World History who is still studying furiously. It's going to be all online. I believe that the length of the test is going to be shortened. So College Board is moving forward with AP examinations, and I believe that the colleges have agreed to accept that as credit if they score a 3 or higher on those tests. One of the things that we have done in the past for our advanced classes is we have summer bridge programs for our students to really close out one year for them and then lead them into the content that is going to be delivered to them in the upcoming school year. Because really and truly, there is so much content in a lot of these advanced courses that it's almost impossible to deliver it all to the students within the time frame that you have in an academic year. So we've done things like that in the past. I'm sure that we're going to be doing them again. And then even for your students that are not necessarily in advanced classes, we have processes in place right now at every school. I know in my district, and then there are a lot of other schools that work continuously to evaluate where our students are at, to determine what they need to learn or what they did not master previously. And then we come up with a plan in order to remediate those students and to get them up to speed so that we can fill in those gaps that may exist.
Thank you so much. And then summer school is going to take place as normal or different, but I heard you guys both say this when Melinda and I were talking to you. There's the philosophy of no kids left behind. I know people are asking about summer school. They're already thinking we're going to be behind. Will they allow us to continue to work if we need to? And I'm going to answer this for you unless you want differently, because I want to ask another question before we finish. The answer was yes. You parents that are out there, they're not going to get to the drop dead point at the end of the school year and say, well, wherever you are, and sorry. Their commitment is to help kids continue to get the help they need, even on into the summer as necessary. And so I know that that's the commitment of Pasadena. I know the Pearland district well. I know Deer Park and Clear Creek districts. Their all hearts are exactly the same. Let me ask you guys to do this, and Melinda may have another question. Can we get really practical for a minute? Maybe Diane, you can help us with this. And Jeremy, I know it's a little bit different with high school, but I know there's elementary and junior high. If you could just take a couple minutes and talk to me as a parent on practical, how should I be facilitating my kids' education at home? Maybe they've got 2 or 3 kids, a 6-year-old, a 9-year-old, and an 11-year-old, right? Or a 6, an 8, and a 15. Can you give some real practical, tangible, environmental thoughts and relational thoughts for these parents because they were thinking, hey, we're done with this in a week, right? Or so they're thinking, we're going to get back to school. And all of a sudden, oh my gosh, now I've really got to rethink this for a whole nother month of educating my kids. Give us some real practicals of environment, relational things that you would suggest to parents from elementary and junior high, and then Jeremy, you as well. Just a few minutes. We're just near the end.
Yeah, I think you have to think about what works best for your kid and what works best for you and your household. But it's important, I think, at any age, really. I mean, if you give your kids some choices, like, okay, so this morning, do you want to work on reading or do you want to work on math? So whichever one you want to work on, possibly give them a choice. They have some ownership in that, and so there's a little bit more more of an idea that, okay, I have a choice, or I'm making the decision for myself, no matter what age they are. The other thing is, like, the kids don't have to, if you've been in a school lately, at any school, they don't necessarily all sit in rows or in a desk
like maybe we did back in the day. And so if your child has a reading assignment and they're like, dude, I want to lay on the floor with my feet in the air on the coffee table and do this reading assignment, chances are at school, they may have the opportunity to go to an alternative seating and do their reading assignment. So they don't have to be sitting up at your kitchen table, all, you know, pencil in their hand, sitting straight up. If they can get the work done on the couch, or they can get the work done laying on the floor, absolutely let them do that. It's one less struggle that you have. If they want to work in their pajamas all day and that works for you, absolutely have them do that. But I would, you know, back off. The power struggles is what's making this so hard on parents and so uncomfortable. And so I think just, again, give yourself a little grace. The teachers are going to give you grace as well. And the kids know what to do. If you have 3 different ages, like Rick mentioned, they don't all have to be in different places. They could all feasibly work in the same room. I mean, like if you're sure that won't be WWE, and that's going to drive you crazy, but they can work in the same room. And chances are, if you have a high school kid, I mean, they could probably help the 6-year-old. I know we have lots of students that are willing to help each other out, and they can help their younger siblings out. So put them on it, because chances are they know more about what the expectation is from the teacher than possibly as a parent that we would know. I hope that answers.
Let me ask, that's great. Let me ask the people online. You parents are already doing some things, and Crystal, I think it's Chris Bryan just shared something. Post some things in the chats to help each other out. Post what you're doing creatively for your kids that has worked, and let's let other parents grab a hold of that, because I know some are going, I don't know what to do, I'm not creative that way. If you guys, parents, if you have learned some things about creativity for your kids' education, just start typing them in the chat, and let's let each other grab some of the ideas that you're learning. I love the idea of letting kids, hey, build your fort, get under your fort, do your work, right? I told people the other day, time out, time in, time out, red light, green light. 5 minutes of this, then take a break. 5 minutes, you know, look in creative ways. They're not us. They're not adults. They learn and process differently. Jeremy, any real practicals from the high school level that you might give? It's different with a parent of a high schooler, but anything real practical, and then I'm going to let Melinda finish up with any questions and kind of wrap us up here.
And for our house, the key to getting everybody working well is for me to leave. That's what they've told me, at least. But no,
did you say for you to leave?
Yeah, they'd say, hey, we're doing fine without you here, so just go to the office and we're going to do our thing. But no, for the high school student, it is a bit more of a challenge. What I've seen and what I've found during these almost 2 months now of remote learning is that our kids are staying up really late and they're getting up late. And I was on a Zoom with our senior class officers last week. Wow. And it was about 2:30, and one of them said, I just woke up. So I think that's one of the challenges, because our teachers they're available to help our students. They are wanting to engage with our students, but sometimes the sleep patterns of our teenagers are not aligning with those hours that the teachers are available. So that would be just one practical thing that I would recommend for our high school students. And then we are reaching out to our students. Last Friday, our homeroom teachers conducted a circle just to check in with our students, not academic in nature, just a social, emotional check-in to reconnect with them. And so I would ask that our teachers encourage our parents encourage their children to participate in those kind of things when we have them. And I think, they're hesitant at first to want to do things like that. But once they do get engaged in that kind of environment and they get their peers and their teacher talking with them about things that are not even really about their classes necessarily, that it makes us feel like we're continuing to function as a school family. And for me right now, I feel like that's my mission, is to ensure that we don't break apart as a school family, to ensure that everyone knows we're in this together. We're not giving up on one another, and we continue to hope for a great outcome in the midst of all these struggles.
Yeah, absolutely. So appreciate your insight and your words of wisdom, Diane and Jeremy. And I know, thank you so much, everybody, for sharing all of your, just your insight and what's working for you. And I know as a working parent, I'm hearing a lot of working parents who, yeah, they threw out like get up early in the morning time. They're like, sleep as late as you want so then I can get my work done. And then when you wake up, then we kind of start doing the family time. So I did see Anna Higgins, I believe that's you, because I know life is still somewhat normal for you as you're still going to work each and every day and your kids are going to daycare. So I believe your question to you, Jeremy or Diane, from Anna is, my kids are still going to daycare where you have very little control over what's going on. So what do you suggest with the young kids? I guess when Anna and her husband are at home with their kids, how do they do the school thing when her kids have been at daycare all day long, probably trying to do work, but again, you're not the parent and you're entrusting the daycare instructors to take care of it. So I guess that'll be our last question. How would you advise Anna?
I would have to divide and conquer because you guys are both working and have the 4 kids. I think you say, okay, we're going to spend, you know, if we do an hour every day or 30 minutes, or, you know, today I'm going to take these 2 kids and we're going to just do the math assignment and get through the whole week's math assignment or whatever. But you just kind of have to, going back to, you have to, the times are weird, right? And so I would even solicit, if they're going to daycare or they're going to a babysitter or wherever they're going, solicit help from them. And I hate to say this doesn't make it easier on the parents, but if reading is easy for your kids, see if they can have some time set aside during the day at daycare to do those reading assignments or to do the assignments that are a little bit easier so that when they come home, when they're really going to need some help, if they're going to need help, that maybe you can do it then. I don't know, Jeremy, what do you think?
I think so. And then, you know, just asking the care providers during the day to maybe give you some time that they can designate for your children to, you know, have some academic time during the course of the day, and then just to check in with them to see how it went on any given day, and then adjust accordingly and have a good day and get the work done at the daycare. And then, you know, hey, maybe we have a little bit more screen time in the evenings and be a little bit more flexible and ready to adjust on a daily basis just as a result of the unique situation.
Yeah.
Jeremy, thank you. As Melinda wraps up, I just want to say to you guys, we have this recorded. We will make it available to everyone who registered. That's our only means to get it to you. You can share it with whoever you guys would like to share it with, or let us know, and Val will make sure that we get it to the people that might want to listen to this as well. I will say this, Jeremy and Diane, thank you so much. But to you parents, I'll just say to you, we've been parents, our kids are older now. I was an educator.
Thank God.
This is not the end of the story. This is not how it ends, right? This is what we're going through. And if we look at it that way, it will pass and you guys will make it. And make sure you prioritize what's most important, which is your relationships with your kids, the opportunity you have that once they're gone, right? So there's great opportunity here. The teachers, their job is still to educate. Your job is to love your kids, help raise them, and teach them how to go through crisis like this. So breathe. It will be okay. Stay in your lanes with your kids, love on them, and help them learn and see what's happening as you go through this as well. Because it's not easy, and no situation's the same. But Melinda, I'll let her kind of wrap this up and close for you guys. But we're glad we can continue to serve you guys. And Diane and Jeremy, thank you so much. Melinda?
First and foremost, I'm just so honored and privileged to call you friends, and just so proud to serve alongside you. And I know you got just a huge shout out from several of the super important people with Maricel, the school board, and then of course we see Diane Powell, who is just truly one of the rock stars of she needs to run for president of the United States as far as I'm concerned. So I love seeing the superintendent, just great job, principals, and PISD strong and proud. And I know that's how every parent feels that's on this, just so proud of their school district and so many school districts who really are just really bringing it. And so thank you so much, Jeremy and Diane. And I would ask for anybody that has a senior that's still on the call, please put in the chat their name. I know there's a lot of adopting seniors that is going on around the community, and we not only want to recognize and honor them, we want to be lifting them up and you as well in prayer. And I think of the kinders too. I think of all those mamas and daddies who have those sweet little kindergartners who are like, my little kindergartners, you know, missed out on being with their friends and loving. And so it's not just our seniors, it's literally the K through 12. It's everyone in between that is going through. So, but again, we just want to say thank you, Jeremy and Diane.
Download the link.
We're praying for you. Download the link. It's got amazing resources that are available to you. And if y'all are willing, we might even bring you guys back again in the next couple of weeks. And Jeremy, your beard might be like really long, and you'll have some cool sideburns growing like Elvis. So if y'all be willing to do that, for anyone who's interested, we might bring you guys back because every week changes, every day and every hour is changing. So thanks again for all of you who have joined with us, and we're here for you. We're Meador together, and we're all in this together. So continue relying on us to be a resource and bringing you the information, the content, and these amazing people that we've been able to bring to you today. So on that note, go and have a great afternoon, and God bless all of you guys. Thanks again. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoyed it.
You suffered.
Thank you, Jeremy.